text Iain.
You probably should. I got my phone's going down there. I
Go
think
ahead.
we got Iain coming up here in a second. We may even have him on. If you got him, bring him on, Alex. I don't even know what's going on here. Look at that. He's probably been here for 10 minutes. I've been messaging producer Alex for minutes here.
Sorry, Iain. How long have you been waiting?
Enough to hear your argument on minor league goaltending, which was a good discussion. I love to see the podcast. It feels like this is a front row seat when you're actually on hold, because I can see my picture. I kind of feel like I'm invested in the conversation, even though you didn't know I was there. So good entertainment.
Well, Iain, how do you see it? How do you see it playing out? Because we've given our opinion on it. Let's get the real reporter in here and tell us how this is actually going to play out here, Iain, with the situation with Archer Silovs.
Yeah, well, I actually asked Rick Tocchet that this morning, and he wasn't totally committal, but their hope is still that Thatcher Demko, who's on the trip, did extra work today, so he's very close to playing. Of course, we thought that last week. We still haven't seen him on the bench for a game yet. But I think when he comes back, Delia will stay. Silovs will go back. Silovs will play a lot, just like he had before. I think when they brought Arturs up, the intention was partly to reward him for what's been an extraordinary season for him, developmentally and result-wise. Partly to hope to get a save at the NHL level, because they weren't getting enough from either Delia or Martin. But I think a huge part of it was to give Silovs, who's turned himself into a legit goaltending prospect for this organization, give him a chance to see what he's up against at the next level. Very similar to what they did with Thatcher Demko at the end of his last full year in the minors, where they gave him one game in garbage time at the end of the season, just so he could see what he needed to do to get ready for the next level. I don't think their intention was to keep Silovs here and make him the starter. And the fact that Delia is going to play tonight after Silovs was so good on Saturday, there's been 2 days between games. I don't think Silovs is here to take over the workload. It's been a great experience for him. I think what they'd like to do is get Thatcher Demko back, have Delia as the backup, and see how that looks for a while.
What have you thought of Archer Silovs through these 2 starts?
Well, the first start, he gives up 5. I think it was on 29 shots, something like that. So initially you think, okay, maybe in a little over his head. Wasn't a great game. But when you went back and broke down the goals, and there was a couple of basically back post, either tap-ins or semi-open nets because the Canucks defended so poorly, and then a couple other goals that deflected in him off teammates, it really wasn't a bad game. He certainly wasn't responsible for that loss on Saturday. But it was really impressive that when he got a second chance, he just looked like a different goalie as well. He looked so composed. He looked very capable. He obviously is calm, and Fabes, I know that you cover the minor league team as much as anybody, so it wouldn't be a surprise to you, but it was a surprise to me when Ryan Johnson told me the story of giving him the phone call that you're coming up, and some guys just start screaming. They're so excited. And he said Silovs was like, okay, sounds good, thanks, because this is how he is. This is his personality. I was really happy that I talked to Phil DiGiuseppe about him on Saturday, because DiGiuseppe, who of course knows him well from their time in Abbotsford, said it's pretty amazing the development that he's seen in Silovs in the last 18 months from where he was when he first kind of got to the organization to where he is now. And he says the fact that he's only 21, he's done that, makes you wonder about how much farther he can go. So it's been everything positive about Silovs, and credit to him, a 6th-round draft pick out of Latvia who got in one game, I think his first pro season, his second pro season, he spent half of it in the ECHL. This is remarkable what he's been able to do.
Okay. Luke Schenn, topic of the day. By the time our podcast listeners listen to this, deal might already be done. I want to talk to you about Schenn because you were writing a story, and I haven't talked to you off air about if you're going to have to rewrite it or what's going to happen. But you talked to Luke Schenn about, all the trade speculation and all that. What did he have to say?
Well, I didn't talk to Luke Schenn today. I have talked to him in the past, several times about it. And, he's made it very clear. This is, with Luke Schenn, what you see is what you get. And you can see it on the ice with the way he plays, the passion he plays with, the heart he has as a player, and what he does for teammates and his team. And he's pretty much the same way off the ice. This is a guy that, came to Vancouver hoping to finish his career here, even though it's a 2-year deal. But he also understands, probably better than almost anybody on this team, because of what he's been through, being dumped in the minors a couple of years ago by Anaheim, and basically thinking that his career might be over. He understands this is very much a business, and that if the Canucks get a good offer, and the fact that Schenn reportedly will be sitting out tonight here in Nashville, they must be very close to deal. They're not just going to sit him out from now until the trade deadline. So the Canucks obviously have something cooking, and Schenn knows that the team where it is in its development, new management, it probably has to look seriously at whatever good deal they can make for him, whatever asset they can get. But it's not a trade that he's looking forward to. He's won a couple of cups with Tampa. It's not like he doesn't have 8 more fingers for more cup rings, but that's not the singular driving force. He really does want to help this organization, and he wants to be here. And I have asked him about, the old trade and re-sign, which everybody loves to float as a possibility. And he says himself, when has it happened? It just doesn't happen very much. But I wouldn't say that it couldn't happen in this case if he is traded, because Luke Schenn really does want to finish his career with the Canucks and be part of the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question in here that I'd love to hear your answer to, from Tyler, asking if Schenn doesn't come back this offseason and he is traded, what's been your favorite moment with him, and just overall in general, Iain, like dealing with him as a person? We talk about it a lot, that he's just tremendous for a locker room, but what is the team getting here with Luke Schenn, and what's been one of your favorite memories of dealing with him?
Well, my favorite thing about Luke Schenn is just his redemption story. And when you cover him a bit and you talk to him a bit, you get to know that this is really a good guy. And so you're happy for his redemption, that he's not only got back out of the minors to continue his NHL career, but is now a valuable commodity as a depth defenseman, as the kind of guy that most teams would like. And that's a wonderful story. And even going back to, that season when he came out of the minors, he got rescued by the Canucks, and his brother Braden won the Stanley Cup, but Luke Schenn wouldn't touch the Stanley Cup. He drank out of it out of a straw when Braden Schenn had his day with the Stanley Cup, because Luke didn't want to jinx anything. And what happens? Gets signed by Tampa and wins 2 cups. So big picture, he's an amazing story. But I do remember a couple little anecdotes from this season. I don't know which road game it was, but I saw him walking down the hallway, and he had an ice pack on each knee and 1 ice pack on a arm. I forget which arm didn't have one. And I said something like, "Oh, you're missing one." And he says, "Yeah, I didn't play hard enough." Because when he plays hard enough, he's got ice packs everywhere. And the other thing, the game, in which game was it, where he fought, it was against Seattle, the terrible game the Canucks had in Seattle. And he ended up fighting Oleksiak. It was like 260 pounds. And that was a heavyweight bout. And Luke Schenn, I think it was 2-0 when Luke Schenn did that. And, he's sitting in the penalty box bleeding, and he's hearing the goal horn go off. And so he said to me, "I guess it didn't work," and just sort of a deadpan humor of a guy who's been around. But that's what he's willing to do for his team, to get bloodied and start a fight with the other team's heavyweight, because that might have got the Canucks going that night. It didn't, but it's indicative that Luke Schenn is willing to do whatever he has to help a team win, and that's why other teams have been calling the Canucks about him.
So we'll wrap up on Elias Pettersson here, Iain. Just how he's playing right now: 7th in the NHL for points, 71 points in 54 games, 27 of them goals, on pace right now for 100 points this season. How much better is he this year than any other year we've seen from Elias Pettersson? Like, what is the actual level that he's stepped up to this season?
Well, we kind of saw it in the second half of last season, at least offensively, but I think he's a more complete player this year. I haven't written about it. I know he spent a lot of time on his strength and his posture and his stride, just to be stronger on his skates. And, that helps in a variety of reasons on the ice. But we've seen him be a better defensive player than he was, and yet still maintain scoring at an elite level. I think it's, if you go back 13 calendar months, so from the time he started to turn it around under Bruce Boudreau last season after a terrible first half, he's got like 120 points. He's got, I believe, more even strength, more 5-on-5 points than any forward in the league this season, and has just turned into an elite player. And now what we've seen since Rick Tocchet has taken over, he's really turning into more of a leader, more of a vocal component to this team. He's such a quiet guy by nature. It doesn't come naturally to him, but he's willing to kind of get out of his comfort zone and take on that role as well. And to me, that's a fascinating development that we're seeing, and we get to continue to see between now and the end of the season, because this, like, it's a fundamental change from what was here in the past. And that's not in any ways a knock against Bo Horvat, but when you trade your captain and you name, as Tocchet did, a 24-year-old in Pettersson, a 23-year-old in Quinn Hughes as alternate captains, and kind of anoint them and say that they're ready, as Patrick Allvin said, to lead this team, that's a seismic shift in where you're going as an organization. And he has taken that on and yet not shown any signs of it affecting what he's trying to do on the ice. So it's been an incredibly positive thing for the Canucks. Now all they have to do is re-sign him.
So everybody, I'm sure, is in the camp of he's a top 10 center in the NHL. Where are you at with the conversation of him being top 5? Because we look at this, the top of the leaderboard for points, and he's there for centers. We see the defensive game improving. Where are you at with that conversation about him being a top 5 center in the league?
Well, I think he might be a top 10 player in the league, and top 5 center. I'd actually have to go down and look at the list, because I haven't looked at it that way. I have looked at where he ranks. Certainly he's a top 10 forward, and he may be a top 10 player, but there are some great young defensemen. This is a golden age for defensemen in the league right now. All the young guys who are in the league. So when you add them in, the goaltending, interesting. The goaltending's not as dominant as it once was. You wouldn't see as many goaltenders, say, in the top 20 in the league, but Pettersson's an elite player, and he's going to have to be paid that way on his next contract. If the deal starts with a 10, that it might be lucky that it's only 10 and not 11 and not 12. That's the kind of player that he is.
Iain, you're down there in Nashville. I'll be there for the draft. Do some scouting for me tonight, okay? Find me a spot that I can go to when I'm down there.
I've been coming to Nashville since the Predators were born, so I've already got a couple of spots I can tell you about. I was going to do this hit outside to try to soak up some of the Nashville atmosphere, because where I'm staying at near 3rd and Broadway, it's basically Country Music Row. And even at, what time is it here? 3:30 in the afternoon on a weekday, the bars have all got their sliding doors / windows open, and there's country music spilling out from everywhere. But I did actually listen to it. I thought it might be a little too loud. So you've only got my hotel room, but Fabes, I'll keep you well informed. I'll give you a full and thorough scouting report of where you need to be.
Sounds good. Let's do it at the rink so we can have it off the record. We don't want to get you in trouble.
That's a very good idea. Very good idea.
Absolutely. Iain, appreciate
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. There he is. Iain Macintyre down in Nashville.